Welcome to episode 9 of the Sourcing Challenge Show. I'm your host, Mark Lundgren. In this week's episode, I'm talking to Viktor Soroka from Select in Ukraine and ask him how he got into sourcing, how sourcing in Ukraine and Eastern Europe is different, and what he'll be speaking about at SourceCon in Budapest. I kicked off the interview by asking Viktor how he got into sourcing.
I started in recruitment in 2007, I believe. And at that time, it was mostly finance and banking, but it was not a sourcing. It was like classic recruitment. And then 2008 happened, world crisis, right? And, no one was looking for financial specialists, So at that time, I switched to IT. I used to live in Kyiv at that time, but, I decided, okay, let me do something different. So we rent a house in mountains and spent 3 months there. And I just, took some time to rethink what I want to do. And, one interesting offer came up from recruitment agency, US based. And this is how I started in IT recruitment. And then in IT, you have to source, right? Otherwise, you will not survive. Again, typical story, Glenn Cassie blog as an entry point, right? And then I really like it, right? Because I always like puzzles and, all these tricky things. So I like sourcing. And then I came to Sourcing Summit Europe for several times and met with Irina, Glenn, and all other guys, and I enjoyed the community. So yeah, I joined EPAM, and one of my goals there was to build some kind of sourcing team, sitting in Eastern Europe, but working around the globe, with focus on US market as well. So this is how I started my journey in sourcing.
Okay. I think now the EPAM sourcing team is quite big, isn't it?
Oh yes, these guys are big right now. So overall in talent acquisition functions, they have several hundreds people, right? And big team dedicated to sourcing as well.
Yeah. And then now you started your own thing. Tell me about that.
So it's interesting journey, right? So after so many years of corporate life, at EPAM, I decided, okay, let me do something different, and I joined Select as a co-founder, and right now we are focusing on sourcing and recruitment, IT, non-IT, executive search, mostly across Eastern Europe, but we also have some position in the US as well. So it's both. It's recruitment and sourcing.
In terms of tools, is it the same tools that work in the Russian-speaking countries and CIS in general, or do you kind of have specific things that you need to work with, or your people have to work with to find people?
I believe it's two different things to build a sourcing tools ecosystem for yourself versus building for a team, right? Because if you're just alone, then you can play with different tools. Some are more easy to use, some more complex. But when you are building a tools ecosystem for a team, you should, consider so many different things, how everything is integrated, what is like onboarding lessons and materials, how a team can, pick up with using this tool. So right now, I'm mostly focused on how to build all these tools ecosystem for the team. So personally, I do like LinkedIn Recruiter. I know that many people are saying different things about if you use it in the right way, it gives you so much ways how to source candidates and engage with them. So I like it, but my point is it has to be used properly, right? I introduced LinkedIn Recruiter for EPAM, and we had a dedicated person, educating internal team how to use LinkedIn, and it worked quite well. So at Select, we also use LinkedIn Recruiter as one of our major sourcing tools. Except that we recently moved to Greenhouse, and these guys also have this CRM sourcing model, which is quite useful as well. And overall, I like Greenhouse as a recruitment system. Except of that, we have amazing hiring. So I like these guys as well. Especially, we like them because they cover Eastern Europe and CIS region, Russian-speaking countries very well. So it helped us a lot. So this is like core for team usage, right? Obviously, many different Chrome extension and everything. but I would say that this is core. Talking about myself, I'm a data guy, right? So Excel is one of my favorite tools. I like combine different data sets, right, and cross-reference and do all these things. Except that I use some security testing and penetration testing tools for sourcing as well. Specifically, I like to use Burp. Again, it was designed for security testers, but it's really helpful for sourcers as well. There are two options. You can go for a free version, and it's quite helpful. Or you can go for premium. It costs like 300 per year or something, but it gives you additional benefits in terms of data extractions and everything. So I use it heavily for really complex sourcing projects when I need to look for some specific guys. You cannot always find them on LinkedIn, or they have limited presence online. So in such cases, Burp is quite helpful.
What would be your kind of advice for companies who have to start looking for people in the CRS region? Of how do they need to think about things and do things differently?
The two approaches. I believe that if you're looking for IT guys, they get used to this international recruitment approach, right? So you don't need to modify your sourcing strategy significantly in terms of engagement of these guys. Talking about sourcing and finding them, again, Amazing Hiring is quite helpful. Plus, you need to know some local resources, local communities of IT specialists like DevBuy in Belarus, or developers for QA in Ukraine, or Habra in Russia, right? Except that GitHub, Stack Overflow, so pretty much similar tool set. But if we are talking about non-IT recruitment, then situation is different. Right? So first of all, you need someone who speaks local language, as Ukrainian or Russian, right? So it's better to approach these candidates with someone who speaks one of the language. And the second is that there are many different social media and networks there which are local, right? Like Kontakte and Odnoklassniki for Russia. In Ukraine, Facebook is quite popular, but again, it's better to use, when you're looking for titles and everything, it's better to use in local language. Again, in my experience, LinkedIn is more popular in Ukraine. It's more or less in Belarus, and in Russia it's blocked, right? It doesn't really work for Russian-speaking market, but cold calling, reference still works. So there are different ways how to can find candidates. But again, the typical problem for this market is that candidates' online presence is much lower compared to Western Europe or compared to US. So overall, I would say that it's more challenging to find someone who is not in IT.
Yeah, tell us a bit about what you will be talking about at SourceCon in Budapest.
So yeah, as I mentioned, except sourcing, I have another passion, and it's white hat security testing and penetration testing. Again, from my childhood, I love puzzles, right? So I like to keep my mind busy with some complex things, right? At some point, like 3 or 4 years ago, while doing some sourcing projects, I realized that I found some interesting, vulnerability, and I can access information I should not be able to access with this level of account. So I started exploring that and read several books, spoke with some guys. And at some point, I realized that actually tools, methodology, and overall thinking is quite close to what we do at sourcing. Right? Because you are working with gathering information, and you are trying to find a vulnerability in the system when you have, several pieces of data and you want to combine it together. So I decided, okay, I think that some of these tools can be useful for sourcing community, and I want to share some of them at SourceCon in Budapest. So specifically, I can give you several examples. Let's say you want to find all guys with specific certification, right? And there's a website, but it doesn't give you access to the whole list, right? You should put first name or last name or email, and then you will see the full information. So using some penetration techniques, right, you can be able to extract the whole data, right, and then use it for sourcing. Or you need to figure out the full list of attendees of specific events. And I believe Aaron did a great job showing some of these techniques in SourceCon in US. So I believe that I will show something interesting as well in Budapest. It also can be useful for data extraction as well. So again, these tools I already mentioned, like Verb, if you know how to work with it, you can extract massive data and then play with it. Recently, there are a lot of conversation regarding Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, and everything, right? So personally, I'm always trying to stay on a white hat side of things, right? So if I found some vulnerability, first what I will do, I will report to the product team, and they will fix it, right? But in my presentation in Budapest, I will focus on the techniques, how to work with public data, but how to work in a more smart way and how to extract this data and how to make better decision using based on this. Cool. And what I'm noticing globally is that many people in sourcing community starting to look at such things. And again, it's not only about tools, it's about mindset.
Yeah.
So how you can think like a penetration testing and what can you achieve with this thinking is sourcing. So it's not just about, okay, you should change this URL and then maybe it will happen. No, it's about how to apply these techniques generally for sourcing.
I mean, with you and you're having a big team now, how do you kind of go about training, especially people who are new to sourcing or who have less experience? Like what's select methodology of getting them up to speed quickly and learning as much as they can as quickly as possible?
I do believe in learning in practice. So what we do here at Select, first of all, we are trying to find the right people, and right people, in my understanding, for sourcing means that they are curious, right? And they keen to learn new things, and they can prove that they can work with big amount of data and process quickly, right? And then we are just trying to put them into real project as a coordinator, assistant, call it whatever you want, and showing them different these techniques. We have certain books this person should go through within next several weeks. Plus we have all this internal training, plus different recording and everything. So I believe there are no one right way how to teach sourcing. And what I also notice that what differentiate good sourcers, that they may be really great in different area, right? So someone is really good in understanding of companies, org structure, business landscape, specific industry, and they use this knowledge to find right people and to make a connection, right?
Yeah.
Other guys, they don't really care what industry, right? They're so good in finding information that one day they can work for oil and gas, and next day they can look for Java developers, and in both industries they are performing very well. So in my view, it's not one silver bullet, right, for sourcing. It's just how you can build your team in a way that everyone can use his or her, strong points.
What kind of books do you get them to read then?
So we have a list. Some of them is for recruitment, right? And some of them are more about business understanding, industry understanding. Some of them connected to security testing. So I can share with you list later.
That would be brilliant. Yeah, it's just kind of good to see, especially like I talk more and more to people who are new to the industry, and they're like, where do I start? Who do I follow? What videos do I watch? What books should I read? And it depends, but it's just good to kind of see what their community does and what the best thing is that they can start with?
I also believe that sourcers can learn a lot from other industries. So what I do enjoy when at some sourcing or recruitment conference, invited speakers from different industries. It gives you, another view on the sourcing things and sourcing channels, so you can start doing something different.
If people want to stay in touch with you and see where things are going and where things are going with Select, how do they do that, Victor?
Yeah, so regular things. I'm active on LinkedIn and Facebook, not really active on Twitter. I still have my accounts there, but use mostly for sourcing, not for tweeting.
Great. Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you in Budapest.
Yeah, thank you. See you in Budapest.
Thank you all for watching. I'll be back next week with a new sourcing conversation. If you want to be one of the first ones to hear about new episodes, make sure you subscribe to this channel.